What if the greatest mysteries of the past aren't hidden in tombs or ruins, but in words we can no longer read? Languages so ancient, so powerful. They built cities, empires, and religions. And yet, they vanished. Some we can piece together, others remain silent codes carved in stone. Today, we uncover 6 lost languages that once gave voice to entire civilizations, but now echo only as whispers across history. 1. Sumerian, the first written tongue. Our story begins in Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years ago. The Sumerians created what we recognize as the world's first written language, cuneiform. Using a reed stylus, they pressed wedge-shaped marks into wet clay tablets. This system allowed them to track harvests, record trade, and codify laws. But it wasn't just numbers. Sumerian clay tablets gave us myths like the Epic of Gilgamesh, humanity's earliest epic story. Sumerian eventually faded from daily life around 2000 BCE, replaced by Akkadian. Yet it remained the language of scholarship, religion, and law for over 1,000 years more. Much like Latin in medieval Europe, Sumerian was kept alive in temples and schools, where scribes memorized vocabulary lists and copied texts. Without this persistence, we might never have unlocked the door to writing itself. 2. Indus script, the silent seals. Farther east, in South Asia, the Indus Valley civilization thrived between 2600 and 1900 BCE. Its cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, were marvels of urban planning, with streets in perfect grids, advanced drainage, and even public baths. But the Indus people left behind something even more intriguing: thousands of seals carved with mysterious symbols. The Indus script contains more than 400 distinct characters, often paired with animal motifs like bulls, elephants, and the so-called unicorn. Yet no one has ever cracked its meaning. Were these symbols recording ownership, ritual prayers, or an early form of writing? Because the inscriptions are so short, often just a few signs, and because no bilingual Rosetta Stone has been found, the Indus script remains undeciphered. Some scholars believe it encoded a Dravidian language. Others think it was proto-writing or symbolic art. Whatever it was, the collapse of the Indus civilization erased it completely. Unlike Egyptian or Mesopotamian writing, it left no descendants. A whole civilization's voice has been silenced for 4,000 years. 3. Linear A, the locked code of Crete. Sailing west, we reach the island of Crete around 1800 BCE. Here the Minoans, Europe's first great civilization, created a script known as Linear A. Found on clay tablets and ritual vessels, it seems to have recorded palace accounts, offerings to gods, and perhaps royal decrees. Linear A looks similar to Linear B, which was later used by the Mycenaean Greeks. Linear B was deciphered in the 1950s and revealed early Greek. But when scholars applied those same phonetic values to Linear A, the words made no sense. Linear A clearly represents a different language, one we no longer know. We can read its signs out loud, but we cannot translate them. What language did the Minoans speak? Was it an isolate or part of a lost family? Until the code is broken, their myths, laws, and prayers remain locked away, leaving Europe's first advanced society strangely mute. 4. Etruscan, Italy's vanished voice. Before Rome rose to power, central Italy belonged to the Etruscans. Between 800 and 400 BCE, they built thriving cities, traded across the Mediterranean, and even ruled Rome for a time. Their language survives in more than 13,000 inscriptions, carved on tombs, pottery, and temple walls. The Etruscans used a version of the Greek alphabet, so we can read their words aloud, but reading isn't the same as understanding. Most Etruscan vocabulary remains a mystery, since it isn't related to Latin, Greek, or any other familiar tongue. Only a handful of bilingual texts, like the Pergi gold tablets, provide clues. We know some family names, words for gods, and legal terms, but not enough to unlock their literature or rituals. The Etruscans deeply influenced Roman culture, from architecture to religion. Even the Roman alphabet traces back to theirs. Yet ironically, While their influence endured, their language was eclipsed by Latin, leaving us with only fragments of meaning carved in stone. 5. Rongo Rongo. Glyphs of isolation. Across the Pacific, on remote Easter Island, the Rapa Nui people created a script known as Rongo Rongo. Carved into wooden tablets, the glyphs depict stylized humans, birds, plants, and geometric forms, arranged in alternating rows, a style called boustrophodon. Some scholars believe Rongo Rongo recorded genealogies or calendars. Others think it was a sacred chant book, recited by priests. The tragedy is that by the time Europeans encountered it in the 19th century, the knowledge of how to read it was already gone. Today, only about 24 tablets survive, scattered across museums. If Rongo Rongo truly represents a full writing system, it would be one of the very few cases in history where a culture invented writing independently without influence from others. That makes its loss even more heartbreaking. Imagine an entire literature, possibly unique to Polynesia, burned away by time, conquest, and cultural collapse. South of ancient Egypt, across what is now Sudan and parts of Ethiopia, a forgotten empire thrived, the kingdom of Meroe. Its skyline was defined by slender pyramids, and its power held by formidable queens called Kandake. Around 300 BCE, they developed a unique script, the Meroitic alphabet, carving their laws, prayers, and stories into stone. But here's the mystery. We can read its 23 letters, but their meaning is lost to time. The language is silent. A lost voice from a great African civilization, waiting to be heard. From the first written tongue of Sumer to the silent seals of the Indus, the locked code of Linear A, the fading voice of the Etruscans, the lost glyphs of Easter Island, and the hidden alphabet of Nubia. These languages remind us how fragile history is. When words vanish, entire worlds vanish with them. Yet every inscription, every symbol, is a time capsule waiting to be opened. One day, perhaps with new technology or a lucky discovery, these civilizations may speak to us again. Until then, they remain among humanity's most haunting mysteries.